But first, let's start with this. Broze for mayor. We have another mayoral candidate, folks. Broze is running for mayor. How are you doing in there, Chris? Is somebody distracting you? What is going on in there? Chris, are you excited about Broze for mayor? He is. Okay, he's working. I didn't mean to bug him. Broze for mayor is the latest thing. We have a new candidate, guys. His name is Derrick Broze. Derrick Broze is, well, he's a political candidate, and he's an interesting character. He's from a group called the Conscious Resistance. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do we... What box do we group this guy into? You have Dwight Boykins, he's the pro-firefighter Democrat. Sylvester Turner, he's the crony Democrat. You got Bill King, he's the unapologetically moderate guy. Tony Busby'd be your fiscal conservative. And now we have Derrick Broze. Tell us about your positions, Derrick Broze.
Well, we want to totally transform the city. We're talking about everything from decriminalizing cannabis and ending the drug war in the city to putting a moratorium on the 5G rollout, which people are concerned about. We're talking about protecting medical freedom. We're talking about transforming the city with food forests and urban farms and, a lot of really exciting ideas.
Okay, I invited Derrick Broze to come on the show today. He did not call us back, surprisingly. Not the first time somebody didn't call us back when we invited him on the show. He's a mayoral candidate. I'm trying to piece together what his positions are on stuff. And one of his ideas is to decentralize Houston's food production. Huh? He wants to help roll out 5G. You know, the cell phone thing? Apparently that's already happening. But what I thought was really interesting here, what's his first position?
Well, we want to totally transform the city. We're talking about everything from decriminalizing cannabis and ending the drug war in the city to...
Okay. Decriminalizing cannabis. Technically, I criticize Kim Ogg on this show. Technically, one thing about Kim Ogg that's very interesting is she's very outspoken, our prosecutor here in Harris County, about how she doesn't want to go after people for marijuana offenses. Oh, is that him? Is that Derrick Broze? We got Derrick Broze! Derrick Broze. Derrick, you got my voicemail.
Yeah, I did. How you doing, brother?
Oh, hang on. Hold on one second. Hold on a second. I'm not using the phones correctly. Let's try that again. Derrick, are you there?
I am here.
That was my bad. It was an operator error. Derrick, I'm very interested in your campaign. First of all, because your name is Broze, and you're pro-marijuana, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely pro-cannabis decriminalization. There's a number of different reasons other than just not thinking people should be locked up by the government for what they put in their body.
I'm with you on that 100%, but I thought it was interesting when you explain your platform that that's what you come out of the gate with.
Well, I don't know if you saw the interview earlier today, but I had about 30 seconds with KPRC online. So I have 9 core issues that I'm focused on, but I just threw out a couple that I figured might be good sound bites for an interview like that. But it's definitely important to me. I know a lot of people aren't familiar with who I am, but I've been active in the city for 10 years as a journalist and as an activist, exposing this mayor and previous mayors. And prior to that, in a different life, I was addicted to drugs, and I went to prison myself in 2005, and I went through that whole experience, and I got out as a felon, and I had to figure out how to make my way back into the world. And I have a lot of experiences directly with the drug war and what happens to an individual once they're labeled a felon and how that can follow you like it does me even 15 years later. So it's an important issue to me.
Derrick, that is one issue I'm totally in line with you on. I think the drug war is a waste of money and energy. It's a waste of resources. Nothing's been accomplished from it. Is that a problem we solve on the local level?
I think it is a problem we solve on the local level. I think one thing that our audiences, and our different people that we interact with can, because I know we probably have a lot of common ground despite differences. I think that one thing your audience will appreciate is I'm not looking to wait for the federal government to say, hey, you have the quote unquote right to smoke cannabis or to use it or grow it or whatever, or for the state to do that. I think it's time for us to start asserting local sovereignty and local rights when it comes to not just the cannabis issue and the drug war, but a number of different issues. I'm not interested at all in waiting for the state or waiting for the federal government or any president to come in and do that. I want Houston to reflect what Houstonians want more than what the state of Texas wants or the federal government wants.
Interesting. Okay, I find your campaign to be fascinating for a number of reasons, Broze. You are clearly an outsider in the world of politics. You're the only candidate I've seen so far whose website features a photo of him in a tank top.
Yeah, I'm just a regular guy. I've been as I said, an activist for the last 10 years. You mentioned the Conscious Resistance. That's my website and a YouTube channel that I run. And I've been doing this sort of thing, speaking publicly. I worked with an activist group for 8 years called the Houston Freethinkers, doing everything from protests and rallies to barbecues and, community garden builds and street cleanups and skill shares, and lived in community houses. I've done that whole thing. I've been arrested for civil disobedience. I've done all that. I pay my bills with journalism and by trying to expose, criminals in government and in the corporate world. And I've just been doing this long enough and tried every other avenue. I've gone to city council, millions of times and been ignored like other Houstonians have. And I figured that now it's time for me to enter the world of politics, at least on this local level, to, at the very least, shake things up, throw a wrench into this system, which, we have 5 million people in the greater Houston area. You've got
Derrick, I'm so sorry to cut you off. We got to do a quick commercial break. Do you want to hang and do another segment?
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
Folks, he is Derrick Broze for mayor. He is clearly an outsider. He's a unique candidacy, to say the least. More with Derrick Broze right after this. You want to call and ask this guy a question? He could be your next mayor. It's possible. 713-212-5950. Coming up, more with Derrick Broze. We are back. In case you missed it, that new advertiser I told you guys about, it's a listener. He developed a smartphone app called the Talk Rating app. Download it. Give it a shot. I think you guys will like it. It's a smartphone app for people that are into talk radio. And if you're on the right, like we are, if you're a conservative news consumer, whether you happen to be a libertarian or a Republican or a conservative, Talk Rating app is definitely something you'll be interested in. And that's something I'm interested in today. I am nothing if not fascinated by a colorful political candidate, guys. Once upon a time, Donald Trump ran for office, and a lot of people ironically supported his candidacy. They didn't even think he was serious. Well, now he's the president. Another example of this on the national scale would be Marianne Williamson. Marianne Williamson, another unique, interesting character. We never thought Marianne Williamson stood a chance. Now she's getting donations by the millions. She's very popular. And I'm not a Democrat. I look forward to more Marianne Williamson in future Democrat debates. Well, we now have a guy like this here in Houston. He's an unusual guy. His name's Derrick Broze. He's running for mayor against Sylvester Turner. His campaign is interesting. He's talked about a few things here, decriminalizing cannabis, initiating a moratorium on the 5G rollout. I think he's talking about cell phones there. No-knock raids for the Houston police. I actually support that policy. It's already a policy, apparently. And ending anti-food sharing. We have a thing here in Houston where we criminalize people for giving food out to the homeless. It's true. It's actually a ticketable offense here in Houston. All that being, I completely agree with all those policy positions. But one thing I don't agree with, Derrick, you have a thing on your website. Derrick Broze, first of all, thanks for coming on the show today. You have a thing on your website, The Conscious Resistance, and it says, and I'm just going to read it to you here, the government is your enemy, not illegal immigrants. You're painting with a pretty broad stroke there, don't you? Brush there, brother. Don't you think so?
Well, that website, The Conscious Resistance, I definitely invite everybody to check that out if you want to get some background on my work. That's it's not related to the mayoral campaign, but that is my work, my YouTube channel. In that video, specifically addressing what I think, unfortunately, in the discussion around immigration, and I think you would probably agree the discussion around a lot of topics, we're facing a situation where some, typically those on the left, want to censor people, want to shut down discussion. And what I've witnessed now in reaction to that is both sides in those types of discussions tend to take extreme arguments. So one position might say all immigrants are criminals or are violent or things of that sort. And then the other side says, just open the borders and let anybody in. And then you get these two extremes screaming and yelling at each other. And anybody trying to have a common sense discussion kind of gets lost in the midst of it.
I happen to agree with that statement. Where you lose me at is the government is the enemy. I mean, there's a lot of people in the government.
I will say this, as far as I'm concerned, the state, the institution of the state, which, is what a government is essentially just a different group of people. Some would refer to them as a gang of people. You could say they have a beneficial interest. They're worried about our welfare, or you could say that sometimes the government, I think most of the time the government is a tool that ends up harming people. And in that video, what I talk about is essentially if you look at the statistics of, let's say, violent activity coming from immigrants, and then the statistics on the amount of people who have died as a result of what is known as democide, which is death by government throughout the 20th century. The government has by far, governments of around the world, authoritarian governments of right and left, have, killed more people and caused more harm to, I would say, freedom and to people. And, I don't necessarily use the label conservative, but I am a more libertarian, freedom-minded individual. I worked with a lot of people in the Ron Paul campaign in 2012. And so my stance is always going to be about how we as individuals and a community can come together to take care of each other, as opposed to what the government can do for us. If you look at my issues, I'm not looking for creating new programs. If anything, I want to cut programs to help pay for the firefighters and help do things like that. But I'm also trying to tackle bigger issues that go after liberty, that the government surveillance, the no-knock raids, all these different issues that are focused on attacking individual liberties. I want to stand in defense of that.
Derrick, I really want to like you. Can I just be clear about something? You make some great points here. I'm a libertarian, but part of the reason why I'm not in the Libertarian Party is this idea that the Libertarian Party feels like it's been co-opted by anarchists, and that's something I can't get behind. I like law and order, at least a little bit of it.
Well, you got to understand, though, brother. I just want to. I know that you're an intelligent person. That anarchism.
Whoa! You don't know that,
no
Derrick. I have a very good producer. I'm not as smart as I sound. Believe me.
Okay, well, your producer makes you look good, right?
He's fantastic. Chris is fantastic.
You probably know well enough that, in the quote-unquote mainstream or in Hollywood or in the media, anytime you hear the word anarchism, they mean violence, they mean destruction. And that's why some people hear that like, hey, I like law and order. But essentially, if somebody was to identify as an anarchist, especially in the Libertarian Party, it's because they believe in individual sovereignty and they believe in self-ownership, which is something that I do believe in. I do believe that you own yourself, you own your body, you own the products of your labor, your paycheck. I think the income tax is wrong. I think that the state really shouldn't be taking from people in general.
These are reasonable positions. Derrick, these are all reasonable positions. I like all this stuff. But part of the reason why I'm not an independent or in the Libertarian Party is I kind of feel like we can't really make any of those things happen without something as powerful as the Republican Party behind us to help us. It certainly feels that way lately. Would you disagree with that?
Well, I think maybe on a local level a national level, it's a different situation. But the reason I like running locally is because there's no party affiliation. So I don't have to say, I'm not running as a Libertarian candidate.
Right, I get that. That makes perfect sense to me. You're the only candidate. I love that. You're the only candidate out there who has, as I explained in the last segment, a photo of you in a tank top on your website. You kind of look like a guy. You don't look like a politician. You look like a guy who teaches pottery classes. And I don't mean that to knock you. Some of my best friends teach pottery classes.
Well, I don't know anything about pottery, but I'm out here trying to talk to people, and I appreciate that. You're right about this, Ken, is that I'm definitely not like any of the other candidates. I'm not a career politician. This is the one time I'm going to run. I don't love ever plan on running again.
I love that. And you have a weird thing on your website. It says, click here for a free ounce of kratom. Bravo Botanicals. Am I going to get put on a government list for looking at your website?
No, well, you're not looking at my campaign website, by the way. If those who want to check out my campaign, it's just DerrickBroze.com. But the other website,
I Googled your name, and that was the two things that came up, was your website and then the Conscious Resistance, which, your mayoral candidate website, it's interesting for sure. The Conscious Resistance is fascinating. Like, I can't stop looking at it.
Well, please go ahead and check it out. Like you said, you can find the Conscious Resistance on YouTube. I got a fairly big following there, and we're just trying to. What is
an ounce of kratom? What is that? What is it you're selling?
Well, I'm not personally selling anything. That's My Brave Botanicals is a partner of the Conscious Resistance website. Kratom is just a plant in the coffee family that has become more popular. It's actually related to the drug war issue, where there's a number of people who are trying to recover from, say, opioid addiction or heroin addiction even. And kratom is a plant that's in Southeast Asia that's become more popular in the last couple of years, and you can use it. It doesn't get you high or anything like that. It gives you a little boost of energy. But
it'd be a lot cooler if it did, Derrick.
Maybe for some people. I'm not, I don't need it myself, but I know a lot of people who use it to help them get through a day or relax or stay calm. But also it's another thing, back to the issue, it's another thing that the federal government is trying to criminalize and make illegal in certain states, even though it doesn't do anything to get you high. But
Derrick, you seem, I'm so glad I had you on the show today. You actually seem a lot more reasonable than people might think if they just looked at you on the internet. You're a colorful, interesting, fascinating character. I welcome you to this mayoral race. There's a lot of people running, and I'm going to continue to cover your candidacy as we move forward. I appreciate that. I think it's very interesting. Real quick, what are your thoughts on Mayor Turner? Why do you think you should be mayor and he shouldn't?
Well, Mayor Turner is just a crook. This is as far as I need to know. And when it comes to the 5G issue, which we just barely touched on, I encourage people to look into that. I'm the one who's been exposing for the last year that Mayor Turner has been bought off by the cellular industry, the CTIA, the Cellular Telephone Internet Association. He met with Verizon officials last summer, and then he created a contract for the city of Houston for Verizon and 5G. And I've confronted him on this several times. He runs away from me. He literally gets up and walks out of the room when I go speak at city council. You can look up the videos of me doing that.
Oh, I would love that. And Derrick, will you send us some videos? Send me something interesting.
I'll send you
we got to wrap this up. I got another guest in the next segment. Derrick Broze is his website. I love your name. Broze is spelled B-R-O-Z-E, just so people know it's not spelled Broze like B-R-O-S. Derrick, D-E-R-R-I-C-K, Broze. Just Google him, folks. You'll find him. Derrick, if anything goes on with your campaign, contact us. Let us know. I want to know about it, okay?
I will. We're going to be in 8 of the debates and forums coming up, so you'll be hearing from me.
Love it, man. I think the fact that Derrick Broze is running for mayor is very interesting, and you guys should too. Even if you have no intentions of voting for him, a fascinating and interesting individual.